just great. That's a fantastic movie. Psycho is a fantastic movie. A million things have been said about Psycho. A million things have been written about Psycho. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about the movie in that regard because you don't need to. But I would like to talk about why was this movie such a huge hit. Why was it a phenomenon? You know, it wasn't just because it was good. We've seen lots of Alfred Hitchcock movies that are really, really good. We've seen a bunch of them. But what was the deal here? Well, part of that was the marketing campaign. And you know, I think some of the previous movies we just saw, maybe like Vertigo or even North by Northwest, Alfred Hitchcock was actually disappointed by how much publicity the studios were doing for his movies, and he basically knew how to play the game at this point, and he orchestrated this thing to a T. And a few examples of that are the following. Number one is he actually made it so no one could enter this film after it had started. You know, there's this great poster that says, and I'm linking it up now, no one but no one will be admitted to the theater after the start of each performance of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. They weren't kidding, and you really couldn't. In fact, there's a story about a newspaper in New York that thought, yeah, right, and they hired a woman to pretend she was pregnant, and she was a little bit late, and surely they wouldn't send her away. They really did. There was not negotiable. And that sort of set everybody on edge. You know, he actually went to great lengths to keep the ending of this movie a secret. When they decided they were going to do it, he actually had his secretary and a bunch of other people go up and buy as many copies of the book as they could, just to keep people from reading it. And he somehow convinced audiences to not give the plot away. He didn't let critics see the movie before everybody else, because he didn't want them to give the plot away. By the way, that really angered a lot of the critics, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. There would be huge lineups for this movie in cities, and people would come out, and people in lineups would say, "What's the secret? What's the secret?" And people apparently would say, "We're not telling you." So really just a tremendous thing, and audiences just loved it. He was right. They came in droves, and he made an awful lot of money. One of the reasons that this movie was really, really good too was Anthony Perkins. Boy, he just fantastic. His sympathetic bad guy. I mean, he is the bad guy in this movie, if you want to call him that. The ultimate villain you'd never suspect. You know, we were to think that his mother was the bad guy, and you know, when they filmed it, they went to great lengths to give the illusion that there really was a Mrs. Bates. And you see in this picture here, this is Alfred Hitchcock on a chair that says Mrs. Bates, in case anyone looked on set. But when they were filming it over those 30+ days, it was a closed location. You know, you couldn't just wander in and watch it. They had security guards posted at the doors. Again, a lot of it for show, just to generate this hype and this publicity. But he made people give an oath saying that they wouldn't tell what they saw, and really did pull it off. They actually had casting calls for the role of Mrs. Bates, and hundreds of people applied to it. They had screen tests for it. There is no Mrs. Bates, so really, really cool. Getting back to Anthony Perkins, he really was a big box office draw already, and it's important to remember that the main character, Norman Bates, was written with him in mind. They really did write it with Anthony Perkins in mind, Joe Stefano and Alfred Hitchcock. But having said that, Anthony Perkins brings an awful lot to the table, not least of which is the nervousness which when he's talking and nibbling on what turns out to be candy corn, when he's talking with Janet Leigh, or when he's being interrogated by Arbogast. That was his idea. At one point during shooting, he came to Alfred Hitchcock and said, "You know, I think this character would look really good if he was nervously nibbling on this food the whole movie." And apparently Alfred Hitchcock said, "Fine, fine, whatever," because he knew that, you know, Anthony Perkins really was committed to this great role. I mentioned the scene with Arbogast. That back and forth dialogue, apparently when they first did that scene, Anthony Perkins asked Hitchcock, "Can we just run through in one long take and see what it turns out to be?" Apparently it was so good, the back and forth dialogue with him and Arbogast, that the people on set applauded once they were done. Ultimately, that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing separate cuts put together. And boy, Anthony Perkins' horror on his face when he realizes that his mother has gone and killed again. I mean, the point is that he sells it to us. He, and the camera does too in other scenes, but he sells it to us that he didn't do it, his mother did it. And boy, it really, you know, we buy it. It sure is good. So when you look at the look he gives you at the end of the film, and he's looking at the camera as Mother, go ahead and listen to him singing Moonlight Swim as Tony Perkins, and it sure makes it creepy. But you know, another reason this movie was a huge hit is it scared the crap out of everybody. It really did. It wasn't a lousy, cheap horror flick with monsters and whatever. This was a great movie that did scare everybody to death, and it achieved exactly what Alfred Hitchcock thought. Well, what would it be like if someone good made one of these movies? And boy, it sure made an awful lot of movie. He made a very, very scary movie that was shocking, and the shower scene in that context too was very, very, it was amazing. I mean, people literally didn't take a shower for a long time after they saw this movie, kind of like they didn't go swimming after they saw Jaws. And Alfred Hitchcock said that they spent 7 days getting that murder scene, that shower scene, well, the whole shower scene, but that murder scene in general, 7 days to shoot it, 70 separate camera setups for what turns out to be 45 seconds of film. But when it's good, and it sure was. So awesome. You cannot say enough about the music in that scene. You can't say enough about the music in this whole movie, done by, of course, Bernard Herrmann. This is a man who just knows what he's doing. Much like Alfred Hitchcock, he didn't need to be told. You know who did need to be told? Alfred Hitchcock, because it was Hitchcock's idea to actually have no music in the film, which may have had its own effectiveness. Maybe sound effects with a knife going in would have been startling, but boy, it was his idea, Bernard Herrmann's idea, to just have the shrieking strings, and it works so well. I mean, how many times have you heard in other movies? And I will tell you that this little puppy did not like that at all. He was sleeping throughout the whole movie, with the two scenes with those shrieking, see, you heard his name, those shrieking violins when Arbogast is climbing up the stairs and finally gets killed by Mother. That really got his attention big time. So very, very interesting. You gotta love it. So Saul Bass's opening title sequences, a home run, the best he's done. You know, neat in North by Northwest, and certainly intriguing in Vertigo, but this is a home run, absolutely fantastic. He was involved in storyboarding the shower scene and storyboarding Arbogast climbing up the stairs and how that looked at, and apparently made claims to, later in life, to being involved in directing that, but everyone who's alive now and was there at the time does agree that no, the only person who directs an Alfred Hitchcock picture is Alfred Hitchcock. So Janet Leigh was fantastic. This has got to be the performance of her life. We've not seen all of her movies, but we've seen a few of them. She actually is interviewed in the DVD extras on this DVD, and she's such a neat lady. It's just wonderful to watch her. I highly recommend the extra after it. They, like I said, they spent a week getting that shower scene done. She was drenched every day. She was probably cold. She was half naked. The scene where she's dead and the camera is pulling away and focusing on her eye, that was a really hard shot to get. They had to shoot it again and again and again to get it just right. She was a complete professional. Alfred Hitchcock was delighted with her. It's weird that they never worked again together, because she just was fantastic. Vera Miles in this movie really wasn't given a lot to work with. She's actually wearing a wig in the whole movie, because the previous movie she was in, which I forget what it's called, but I'm linking it up right here, she had a shaved head, so that's a wig that she's wearing. She doesn't work for Hitchcock again, because it just doesn't happen, and really the momentum with him turning her into the big star was lost when she decided to get pregnant and not be in Vertigo. We certainly talked about that a lot a couple of movies ago. And you know, again, not working with Janet Leigh again, you know, she was 33 and already established. You know, it's way more fun for Alfred to try to get his new young blonde actress and mold her into what he wants, and something tells me that that's going to happen in the next movie or so. And so, with Psycho, which did not cost a lot of money to produce, goes on to make just an astonishing amount of money. Needless to say, it was the highest grossing film of the year. It wasn't even close. Made money in every country it played, blew everybody's mind, has influenced countless directors, countless authors. You know, we talk about the horror movies to follow: The Exorcist, Halloween, Friday the 13th. The movies, it's an industry. I mean, these big blockbuster movies that scare everybody and make lots and lots of money. If you've never seen those and you're seeing Psycho for the first time in 1960, you know, again, it was a big deal, but doesn't matter. Still hugely watchable today, delightful. And Alfred Hitchcock now has achieved fame, fortune, respect, and admiration, whether he meant to or not. And the question has to be asked: well, where does he go from here now? And well, he takes a big break and doesn't release a film for 3 years, which turns out to be 1963's The Birds. And although he has more successes, this is it. This really is the pinnacle, the peak of his career. And you know, if you think about it, Psycho, North by Northwest, and Vertigo, done in 3 years, 58, 59, 60. That is, it just boggles the mind that all happened that quickly, and absolutely wonderful. So the cameo happened right away. Yeah, that's Hitchcock wearing a cowboy hat, and it happens at 6 minutes and 38 seconds. If you want to rewind, if you didn't catch it, he's actually in the same scene as his daughter Patricia, who that's her last Alfred Hitchcock movie. And boy, once again she was just right for the role. She was great. Perhaps he's flirting with you because he saw the ring on my finger, whatever it was. So there's a great book out there called The Making of Psycho, written by Stephen Rebello. It was actually originally published in 1990. A great read, extremely well researched, and very technical, but it doesn't drag. I mean, it really is a wonderfully written book. He had written a 22-page article in 1986 about Psycho, and this book, I highly recommend this book if you like Psycho, or if you followed all these Alfred Hitchcock movies. Like I say, it's so well researched. I mean, he would just have a few sentences that, you know, with all the research we've done, we'd be like, yeah, that's right. He knows everything. This guy knows everything. And that, you know, it's such a good book. It's being turned into a movie. The Making of Psycho is being turned into a movie. Production starting in April of 2012. It's 2011 now as we make this video. And it's going to star Anthony Hopkins as Alfred Hitchcock and Helen Mirren as Alma Hitchcock. So we can't wait for that. That's going to be great. So, whew, so good. So we're done with Psycho. We're done with 1960. I would watch that again right now. It's such a good movie. But we have to say that in 1960, what won Best Picture was not Psycho. It wasn't even nominated for Best Picture. A bunch of movies you've never heard of were. But what won Best Picture is The Apartment in 1960, starring Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon. A very funny movie, but certainly dated. Psycho was actually nominated for 4 Oscars, and one of the Oscars was Best Director, Alfred Hitchcock, which he does not win. This is the last time he's nominated for Best Director. He never won. He was nominated for Rebecca, Lifeboat, Spellbound, Rear Window, and Psycho. He wasn't an Oscar guy. I think this one he probably thought, this is the one I'm going to win, because it's such a director's movie. You know, in the book we're always talking about, the Truffaut book, where Francois, a director of great movies himself, interviewed Alfred Hitchcock in the 60s. They talk at length about this movie, and they talk about that it was made for people, but it was made for other directors to just sit and love and watch and copy and emulate, and hugely watchable. So in case you're keeping score, Billy Wilder won Best Director that year for The Apartment. So good. So Alfred Hitchcock's going to take a break, he's going to take a deep breath, and he's going to come back in 1963 with The Birds, another movie hugely associated with Alfred Hitchcock. So great, keep the comments coming. We'd love to hear what you thought about tonight's Psycho. Obviously, we thought it was awesome. It scared our puppy to crazy. The music sure did. So good. So we look forward to next week, and so from our couch to yours, we will see you then.